Hello and welcome to the Sustainable Food and Drink Podcast, a series that asks how food and agriculture can achieve impact against the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This podcast is brought to you by Lumina Intelligence Sustainability, a subscription service for industry, governments and NGOs that explores how to achieve closer alignment with the SDGs with a focus on cocoa, coffee, tea and palm. I'm Oliver Nieburg, a market analyst for Lumina Sustainability and former editor of food and drink industry publications such as ConfectioneryNews. In this edition, I speak to Sako Warren, Secretary General of the World Cocoa Farmers Organization, the WCFO, and Michel Arrion, Executive Director of the International Cocoa Organization, the ICCO. Last week, the governments of Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana moved to address what the President of Ghana called a manifest injustice. A $100 billion chocolate industry where less than 6% of the value goes to the hard work of farmers who often live in poverty. The governments have jointly proposed a minimum price of $2,600 per tonne and have suspended forward sales for the 2020-21 season until this floor price is implemented. Cocoa prices are notoriously volatile and declined steeply in 2017, only going above the 2,600 mark once in the last 3 years. So this is surely good news for farmers. The move has been welcomed by the likes of fair trade, but how does the ICCO feel about it? And moreover, what do farmers think? WCFO, with 800,000 members who are smallholders or farmer groups, wants the governments to reconsider. I asked Secretary General why.
Yeah, we all agree that farmers should receive a better price. It's only we also appreciate the idea that the government are trying to find a way to make this happen. But we believe that this should not be something to be done by the government. It should be something that farmers should be part of it, and of course play the driving role.
Why weren't farmers involved in these discussions? I mean, and is it that the WCFO wasn't involved, or were cocoa farmers not involved altogether?
I cannot give a reason why they were not involved, but what I can say is, and I think you also have seen the decision on those who were involved. So based on that, the farmers were not invited. Normally, WCFO was not invited, and not just farmers, but we also think other organizations such as the ICCO could have been part of such discussion and decision.
But I mean, when communicating this minimum floor price, the Ghanaian government at least has suggested that it's for the benefit of cocoa farmers. I mean, it says that cocoa farmers earn just under 6% of the global value chain of the industry. So, I mean, wouldn't that suggest that this would help farmers get a better share?
I fully agree that a farmer's income is very, very important, and as farmers' organization, we see that as something serious in our advocacy. So, but there is maybe depending on how people will see this issue of price. We believe that farmers should be the ones to communicate with their partners on what price should they sell their crop, and we don't think the idea of having a ceiling, fixed ceiling, should be the answer. And we also know that we have problems such as how is that ceiling going to get to the farmer. So we are not only talking about increasing the price or making a ceiling. But what we are much concerned is how do the farmers get that money? Because make no mistake here, we're talking about cocoa. And when we talk about cocoa, we're talking about a crop that is being produced by individuals. So when the farmers are the ones producing the crop, so this ceiling of, as we know now, 2,600, that has been proposed by the government, and who is going to have this money? So see, these are all some of the things that we think that it should be much more a broader discussion with farmers taking the active role, as this has to do with what they produce.
I mean, there's a suggestion that this added money could help to fund rural investment. Do you not see that as a positive, or do you fear that that money will not go towards that?
So I think, again, I respect other people's opinion, but our opinion here is we're talking about cocoa crop. So a farmer who produces the cocoa to sell, this ceiling that the government is proposing of 2,500 should not be an amount of money to be spent for infrastructures, but it should be money going to the farmer. For the farmer is a business person, and that amount of money should be the income for the farmer, but not money to be used to invest in infrastructures in the country or producing countries.
But I mean, won't this allow farm gate prices as they currently are to the protection will allow a more consistent farm gate price than we've seen over the last few years? So isn't there some potential that farm gate prices could also rise?
Yeah, I hear this a lot of times about farm gate price and actual price. See, that is where I believe there is a lot of confusion here, or what we think, and that is where the problem lies. So we're talking about cocoa farmers who are entrepreneurs. So the farm gate price, when it comes to our view, it is not something that we will be discussing about. The farmer has a right to get the floor price that we're talking about now, because that amount that has been paid as a floor price is being paid for the cost of cocoa that the industry or industry partner buys from the farmer. So you see, these are some of the things we keep on saying that we need reform, because the difference of farm gate price and the ceiling price or the well price, and we don't see it. We know that farmers are the business people who produce what they have produced and have to sell it. So why should they have the farm gate price and not the actual price?
Do you actually see it as realistic that cocoa farmers would receive that entire floor price and not a farm gate price? In Côte d'Ivoire, cocoa is the top export, $3.8 billion in 2017, the 37% of exports in value. So, I mean, it's a lot of money for the governments to give up, which it would hopefully be investing in rural infrastructure. So, I mean, how likely is it that governments would give up more value of a crop that drives their economies?
So I think I'm happy that you use that word, the crop. So and when we talk about a crop is something that is being produced by individuals and not government. So yes, of course, the government has a right to come up with regulations that give them the possibilities to take taxes from the farmers. So, but not that the government should decide on amount of money to be paid to the farmer. No, and that is why we are saying that it is important that this dialogue, a dialogue should be open as soon as possible. That will include all relevant stakeholders, and to find a way to reform the sector, because again, I keep on saying that we're talking about cocoa crop, and cocoa crop is not a natural resources that is going to be used for generating national income. Yes, of course, farmers also have a right to pay taxes from what they earn, but that should be deducted from their income, and not to be for them to receive what has been reduced from their income.
But do you think your group could support this decision on a minimum floor price if the governments involve the WCFO in the next round of discussions?
So we think, as you must have known, that our goal is for the better for our members, who are the farmers, millions, And also, because when the farmers are better, then they will also improve the economy of their countries. So yes, of course, we have in place what we call a roadmap that we are working for I think about 1.5 years now. This document is going to be finalized and put public by September. In this document, we have clearly put in place the possibilities that stakeholders such as governments can get involved and get their taxes. And of course, the farmers will also have the opportunity to manage their business as independent business people. So yes, we have an idea on how we think this can work for the both sides.
You also issued a press release, and you said in the discussions about the floor price that you were concerned that the International Cocoa Organization, the ICCO, whose members are other cocoa consuming and producing countries, was not invited. Why do you see that as an issue?
Yeah, we raised a concern regarding to that because, as you know, this decision was being taken by two countries, in this case, Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. And as I believe you also know that we're talking about cocoa crop, that we have a lot of countries who also produce. So, and that is why we think such decisions should be taken in a level that has to be with where our producing countries are participating. And in this case, we think ICCO could have been the best platform to use to address such decision. So as a result, we realized that ICCO was also missing, and just as the farmers were missing, and that is why we think it was not a good idea not to include ICCO and other producing countries, including farmers.
I understand that there will be a follow-up meeting to discuss how the floor price will be implemented in early July. Would WCFO and its members, would you like to be a part of these discussions? And if so, what will you bring to the table in these discussions?
Yeah, we think, as we keep on saying, that it is not as that farmers are pleading to be part of these discussions, but we think it is their right to be part of these discussions, and that is why we say yes, we are ready and we will be attending this meeting to share our ideas on how we think we can work together with government and industry to make the sector more inclusive and transparent and, of course, sustainable.
Michel Arrion became Executive Director of the International Cocoa Organization in October 2018. The ICCO is a member organisation for cocoa consuming and producing countries, but was not part of Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire's floor price discussions. I asked him what the ICCO makes of the floor price and why it and farmers were not part of the talks.
Well, it's an issue that we have discussed extensively 2 months ago in our last council meeting in April in Abidjan. Within the framework, actually, of the establishment of our next strategic action plan for the next 5 years, and the overarching objective was clearly to improve the farm gate price and the more globally the living income of the farmers. So the recent decision and joint efforts of Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana go very well, I would say, with this objective of the organization.
My understanding was that the ICCO was not involved in these discussions. Was that the case? And if so, why was that the case?
Well, it's indeed we were not involved. We were not in Accra. We were not in the room. I understand that the only people invited in the room were the two governments and the major players from the private sector. ICCO as an organization of governments is not at all involved in any kind of business transaction. We do not buy, we do not sell cocoa. So as long as this effort and this decision of Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana are consistent with the objective of the organization, I think we are pleased to see that happening, and I believe it's just the beginning of a process, and I'm sure we will have the opportunity to discuss it at our next council meeting in September.
I think you told Le Monde that price, the minimum price that was set, was not unrealistic. Is it more or less in line with what you expected?
Well, it's an understatement. I would say it's not at all unrealistic. On the contrary, it's going in the right direction. If I have to say something in addition to that, is that I would have expected more. A higher price. I'm sure. I was not in the room when they discussed, but I was more expecting something around 3,000 than 2,600. And why am I saying that? Well, it's because if you look at the historical series, the historical prices of cocoa, you will see that for the last 40, if not 50 years, the prices paid to the FOB export price has been declining dramatically from a level of $15,000 in constant dollars in 72 to 2,500 today, so 2,400. So there is nothing wrong by saying that yes, we need an increase, and we need something like a more dramatic increase. Also, if you compare the price with the average income of a farmer, if a farmer produces 1 ton per year as an average, 1 ton of cocoa per year, so the average income will be 2,500, or let's say 2,400 for 12 months. So it's $200 a month, which is well below the poverty line if you consider that the cocoa grower is feeding 7 or 8 people in the household. So. And the third argument, so you have the first historical argument. The second argument is when you compare with the income. And I would say the third one is that cocoa produced by Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana represents 65 or 2/3 of the world cocoa production. And they have a dramatic impact on the world prices. So they are, in a way, contributing to making the price. And therefore, I don't see why, and I understand, by the way, that, again, I was not in the room, but I understand that some important players from the private sector have immediately accepted this idea of increasing the price, and they have said, well, we should do more together and go in that direction further in the coming months or years, and really work together to improve the price.
To what extent, though, will this pricing protection actually support farmers? You mentioned earlier that this could potentially lead to an increase in the farm gate price, but
yes.
How realistic do you see that to be?
No. I mean, that's precisely something that we are talking when we mention 2,600. We are talking about the FOB export price, FOB Abidjan, San Pedro, or Tema, or wherever, or Douala. As you know, the farmers get about 70% of this price. So if you have an increase of the price, the farmers should get, I would say, 70% of the increase. So that is the principle, but it remains to be seen whether the Cocoa Board and the CCC will translate this increase in the FOB price into an equivalent increase to the farmers, but that's their decision.
I mean, as you say, even if that will lead to an increase in the farm gate price, it will be marginal for the incomes of cocoa farmers. And
yeah, we are talking about 10%, huh? Yeah.
And speaking to the World Cocoa Farmers Organization, it argues that farmers have been left out of these discussions as well, like the ICCO, and it argues that farmers should receive that floor price rather than a set farm gate price from the government. I mean, what's your view on that?
Well, I have read the statement from the World Cocoa Farmers Organization. There was a similar statement from the Ivorian producers, one organization. Well, they are doing their job. I think that generally speaking, indeed, the voice of the farmers is not sufficiently heard by the governments or even by organizations like ICCO. But I'm tempted to say, give me the number of the representative of the farmers, the phone number. So it is true that the farmers are not sufficiently well organized, and that's valid not only for cocoa, but for all agricultural commodities. So we desperately need a strong, vibrant, democratically chosen representative of farmers. And that is, of course, linked to the question of I would say, governance of the agricultural sector, of the cooperative movement. In too many cases, we have seen representatives of cooperatives who indeed were not fully mandated to represent their members or the farmers. So there is a problem also from their own side.
After we initially published this podcast, Sako Warren of the World Cocoa Farmers Organization got in touch to respond to Michel Arrion's comments.
Yeah, I think personally I am surprised, but I also think that the sector is aware that the World Cocoa Farmers Organization exists for almost 5 years in the sector, and as farmers' representative, and taking also into consideration that WCFO was invited by the ICCO to participate at the Berlin World Cocoa Conference, including giving us the position as speakers under the name the World Cocoa Farmers Organization. So we also took part in drafting the declaration of the Berlin Conference. So it was a surprise to hear that from the ICCO.
Does the WCFO have a legitimacy issue? I was looking at some of the reaction on social media from your press release, and some were asking why a farmer organisation for cocoa is based in the Netherlands. I mean, is it right to be based in a country that doesn't produce cocoa?
I think we respect the concerns of the people who feel that way, and I also believe that they should understand that WCFO is the World Cocoa Farmers Organization, and that has members, and the members have as a responsibility to decide where they want to put the headquarters of their organization, just like any other organization. We are a global organization, and the members decided to put the headquarters of the organization in the Netherlands. So I think, we fully understand some concerns of people, but this is the decision of the World Cocoa Farmers Organization to do that.
And that's the end of our podcast. We have contacted the Ghana Cocoa Board about farmer inclusion in these discussions, and will include its response in the text article accompanying this podcast. For more on following developments in cocoa, coffee, tea and palm sustainability, please do check out Lumina Intelligence Sustainability. We have tools to track industry commitments and data on how sustainable products are communicated online. Thank you for listening. The music credit goes to Blue Dot Sessions. Until next time, goodbye.